Today I wanted to take a look at something that will be beneficial for you in the future when you look into saving your money, making investments, and even understanding how mortgage payments and loan payments will work. So, we've all heard of interest rates, right? Interest rates, we know that they're associated with taking out a loan or maybe putting money away into a savings account or an investment. Um, Now, there's something called simple interest, which is where you put in a certain amount of money, and let's say that's $1,000. This is your principal, and then let's say that we have an interest rate of, let's say, 2%. Now, this is a pretty high interest rate for a savings account. I don't think you would find that really anywhere. Most savings accounts are maybe 1% or less than 1%. And then this would be your interest rate. So with simple interest, you would just make interest on the first thing of money that you put in. So to find out what our total amount is, so let's say that our amount will be equal to 1,000. And to find our total amount, we actually have to convert this percent into a decimal. So when we divide that by 100, we would actually get 0.02. Now to get your total amount, you have to have 1 plus this. And you would multiply that with your 1,000 here. So if you were to do that, you would have 1,000 times 1.02, and you would end up with a total of 1,020. So this is just simple interest. This is what you would maybe make after about a year. Now, there's this thing called compounding interest, where you put in a certain amount of money, you make some interest after a certain amount of time, like let's say 1 year, and then you start the new year, and you start the new year with this amount, and then you make more interest on this. So let's say that this is year 1. Let's look at year 2. So we start off with this amount here. We put the same number here. And if we look, we will see that we have now made this much in year 2. Now, let's see what we would make after year 3. So we would have our amount. We would now put this amount, 1,040.4 times 1 plus 0.02. And if we were to calculate that, we would get 1,061.21. So year 3. So you can see that our money, our initial value is growing. And it's growing each year. Now this is what we call compounding interest. Oops. So let's introduce the actual formula. So compounding interest. When you have compounding interest, you will have this formula right here. F of t is equal to your principal times 1 plus r over n to the power of nt. So P is your principal. This is your initial deposit or your initial amount. R is your interest rate, and it has to be in a decimal form. Now N is the number of compounding periods. In our previous example, we were looking at an annual amount, so our N was just equal to 1. But you can have other compounding periods. For instance, you can have a weekly compounding interest, you can have monthly, you can have biannual, and you can even have daily. And then finally, our T is time in years. So this is the basic formula. This is what everything means. And you can use this formula to calculate how much interest you would make based on what you put in and what your interest rate is, and whether it's monthly, annually, biweekly, whatever kind of compounding period. So, something to note for compounding periods. I'll put it right here. N is equal to 1 if it is annually. N is equal to 2 if it is biannually. Whoops, I did not spell that correctly. Annually. N is equal to 4 if it is quarterly. N is equal to 12 if it is monthly. N is equal to 52 if it is weekly. And N will be equal to 365 if it is daily. So this is just like a little side note to help you guys remember these numbers here. So let's do an example. Let's say that we are investing $10,000 for a total of 15 years at an interest rate of, let's say, 1%, which is pretty standard for a good savings account, that is compounded monthly. So our P is 10,000. Our interest rate is 1%. We divide that by 100 to get it to a decimal, so it comes 0.01. Our T is 15, and our N is 12. So let us plug everything in. Divide this and then add it to 1. So 0.01 divided by 12 plus 1 is going to be equal to 1.0008. And then the 12 times 15 is going to be equal to 180. And then the last thing to do is to calculate this entire thing. So 10,000 times 1.0008 to the power of 180 is going to be equal to 11,548.18. So this is how much you would have after 15 years. Now, of course, this is not accounting for the fact that you might be putting in money every couple months or every year. This is just you put in money one-time shot and you just let it sit there. If you do decide to put money in, then that will change your number and you have to kind of use a different formula for that. So all in all, this is compounding interest. It's really useful to understand how to save up money for buying a house, for retirement, for pension plans. It's also super useful to understand how much debt you can accumulate when you take out a loan or take out a mortgage. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.